Welcome back to Sex with Ashley. So today's episode is going to be a little different. So we're dived into a trending topic that's making headlines. We are talking about the Diddy trial, right? But particularly we're talking about Cassie. We're talking about, this is going to be about survival. It's about the women who have been silent, shamed, and stuck in situations that from the outside might look glamorous, but behind closed doors are anything but. So we're going to break down why women stay, what sex trafficking is and can look like, and the mental toll of domestic abuse. And so today, my guest is Dr. Tamara. What is your last name, Dr. Tamara?
Rose.
Rose. So my guest today, I knew that. Like I knew that, but it didn't pop up and I couldn't think right quick. So my guest today is Dr. Tamara Rose. So first of all, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into like this whole conversation.
So I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you. My name is Dr. Tamara Rose. I am a lot of things, right? But most recently, an Ayurvedic practitioner that really works with women around ancestral trauma, inner child healing, sexuality, and womb wellness, and how the intersectionality of all of these things, plus our various identities, and kind of like how we show up or not in this world impacts us, and how to heal all of that ish, right, that we've been carrying around. Some of it, and most of it is not ours, but how to heal that so that we can live a life full of health and balance and wholeness.
So just about bio, you guys can see why Dr. Tamara is the best person for this conversation, because like all that stuff right there, yes, we need more of that. So we're gonna get started. So let's talk about, why do you think Cassie's story is hitting people so hard, even after like this whole relationship ended? Why is this such like why is this resonating with people? What do you think?
I think it's resonating with people because, first of all, Sean Combs, Diddy, whatever we call him these days, is a very high profile person who really had a huge impact on the culture, especially when we talk about music. And if you grew up in my area, I mean, he was just all things, right, when it came to production and music and everything, And so I
Bad
think
Boy was a vibe. Bad Boy was.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I think that's one of the reasons why it's in the headlines, because it's such a high profile. And then the things that he has been allegedly, we want to say allegedly, accused of doing or participating in, I feel like some people just don't believe it, right? They're taken aback because how could our favorite producer, our favorite mogul, hip hop mogul, be involved in such alleged acts? But then just the nature of it, when you tie it to sexuality, and then when you think about Cassie, a young beautiful girl who's caught up in the glamour and the glitz of this music industry, I think. And then the fact that people don't believe, and then some people do believe, that there's this thing that existed between them that created all of this mess. And I think people are kind of just up in arms and torn and don't really know what to do. There's a lot of confusion about, did she consent? How could she have been abused when she stayed in the relationship? Like all the things that you said at the beginning of the show.
Mm-hmm. So I've been, I haven't really said much on social media. Like I've learned over the years that sometimes it's just better to keep your thoughts to yourself and like just gather information. So I haven't really said anything on social media at all. Actually, I haven't said anything about it at all. But I do read the comments of different people's takes, and some of the comments are like, and this is, why did she stay? Right, that is a very common question that's being asked. And so how do we reframe that question to better understand like the mindset of domestic violence survivors? And so most of the people who, I'll say this, I think most of the people who are asking that question are also male. And so I was talking to one of my friends, and I was like, so luckily for me, I have not been a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault, right? But I know people who have. And so I empathize. I can empathize with them, right? And I can see how it's just not as easy to be like, I'm just gonna leave. Mm-hmm. And so I was telling one of my friends who happens to be male, and he said, why did you just didn't leave? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I can tell you have not been a victim or know any victims personally of domestic violence, because if you did, I don't think that's a question you'd be asking.
Correct. Like I think, and like you, I hadn't said much, right? Because I just didn't even want to get involved in the conversation. But I was reading one post in particularly, and I was like, people are so insensitive. But not only are people insensitive and lacking compassion, People are truly uninformed and do not understand the mental health aspect of trauma, what that looks like, and how the body literally kicks into survival mode for the person to survive, right? And so I started to think like we have to have conversations about this. And so I posted a couple different videos talking about it from that standpoint. And then also being transparent, having been a survivor of domestic abuse myself, not so much physically, but in all the other ways that people don't associate with domestic abuse. I said, you know what, I gotta say something because people really need to understand it's not why did she stay, right? Because I don't even know if she was even logically able to think about why she stayed because her brain was in survival mode. It's not why did she stay, it's how can I survive?
People, I don't think people read like when the civil case first happened last year,
Mm-hmm.
and the what is it, the affidavit, the it was several pages, and so I read it. I read all pages at middle of the night one day because I was, hey, I'm nosy, so let's read all these pages. And so in it, she said that she tried to leave several times, and every time she would leave, he and his goons, for lack of better words, will
Mm-hmm.
always come
Mm-hmm.
and force her to come back
Mm-hmm.
various ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I don't think people, I didn't read that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Why didn't she leave? Because it wasn't as easy to leave. And then when she did try to leave, she was threatened or
Mm-hmm.
forced or whatever to come back.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so there's the physical component of it, correct? Right? Like they actually come and they get you and they bring you back, or they use coercion, they use force. And then there's also that mental capacity of manipulation, gaslighting, threats to harming your family. And then it's that own internalized situation that you just go through on your own. Like for me, in my relationship, my husband, ex-husband at the husband, now ex-husband, was very abusive. It was more mentally, emotionally, socially, spiritually, and not financially, just in all of these other ways. And for me, it was a shame. I was
Mhm.
embarrassed. I was ashamed that I, who had been doing women's empowerment and sexuality for over 20 years at that point, how the hell did I find myself in this type of a relationship? Right. So now I'm embarrassed. Now I don't know who I can talk to. And then the other piece about it was feeling the religious component, because God don't smile on divorce, and all of these sorts of layers and shame that I was looking at, and embarrassment. And that kept me there because I didn't want to disappoint myself. I didn't want to let people who thought we had this perfect relationship let them down. I didn't want to let the church down. I didn't want to let mama and them down, and so that was one thing. And then the other thing is like, well, where am I going to go? That's why I always tell people, stop telling people to leave these relationships unless you are prepared to provide for them.
Yes.
Financially, emotionally, mentally, unless you have the tools and the resources to give them a place to go. You can't tell people to leave. And the other thing is, a person is not going to leave until they've had enough, whatever that enough is.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the only time they'll leave, because if they haven't had enough, then they will surely go back. And it's
Yeah.
going to get worse for them. Which
Yeah.
is what and then when Cassie tried to leave, we saw what happened to her. And I don't even think the video from the hotel was even her logically saying, let me leave. I think her body was in survival mode and she just got up and started moving.
Probably.
Yeah.
And so another comment that I see a lot are people saying, because her and Puff had like some type of transactional sex, some type of kink thing going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so people were saying that she knew what she was getting into.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you respond to victim blaming in a situation like that? Like especially when people, when it's like sex, power, and money involved.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we respond to that?
I think, again, this is where people don't understand survival mode and how the brain works in survival mode when it goes into fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or fiend mode. And in those types of situations, your brain is literally trying to help you survive the encounter. And so sometimes what may look like me consenting is actually not consent. I'm under, first of all, the control and the manipulation of power, right?
Okay.
I'm under the control of fear. I'm being coerced. And at some point, for me to survive the encounter, my brain has switched off of a logical mode, right, into this mode that's just helping me to survive. Like, for example, I might be in the fawning mode where I'm literally just doing what I need to do to please this person so that they don't kick my tail. or that they don't threaten my family, so that I can survive, so that I can live. And then you might even move into the fiending mode where now you're people pleasing and you're actually initiating, right, the behaviors or the encounters again so that you can survive. And people don't truly understand that is your brain's automatic response, because that happens automatically when we're in a space of fear and trauma. And so our brain literally switches into the survival mode. And so what looks like a willing participant is somebody who's in survival mode trying to survive.
Good. That's a great explanation because on the stand they had these text messages. On some of the text messages, she initiated some of the sexual acts, and then some that she was saying he asked, and she was like, "Oh, I love doing this." And so people responded like, "Oh, see there, there's your proof. She loves doing it." But your explanation just explains why that was.
And then also what you got to remember too, and I know you know this, that there's a difference between a physiological response or a biological response and a psychological response. So a physiological response, the body is doing what it's supposed to do, get aroused. And so I might love it. It might really feel good to me. But mentally, emotionally, psychologically, I don't want it. Which is why when we talk about victims of sexual assault, they feel betrayed because how could my body respond in such a way? But I didn't want it. I said no, right? And then people also got to remember when the brain is in survival mode, a lot of times you dissociate.
Mm-hmm.
And your brain shuts down, your logical part of your brain shuts down. And so the reason why sometimes sexual assault survivors don't come forward is because they literally didn't remember it, because the brain fragmented that experience into pieces so that the person could survive.
So let's talk about coming forward.
Okay.
Another question people are having is why it took her so long to say anything about it, because this happened mid 2012, 13, 14, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. And that's people like, well, why didn't she report it then? Why did she wait 10 years to say anything about it? And then if it was as bad as she said it was, why did she do a civil case and go after the money? So what would you say to that question?
I would say, in addition to some of the other things that we've already kind of discussed, shame, being dehumanized as a victim and a survivor, people not believing and having to be re-traumatized by the experience. Also, if there's things that she didn't remember, because the brain stores trauma in fragmented pieces until something is triggered or activated, then sometimes survivors don't remember what their body has been through. But then also because the court of public opinion, people making comments who don't know and understand trauma, right? But then also because it's so hard to prove because of what we just talked about. People don't understand how the brain works in survival mode. They don't understand how trauma works. And so what looks like her consenting and being an active participant and a part of it is really her trying to survive. And sometimes she actually might be, what they call a victim of Stockholm syndrome, when you start to actually sympathize and fall in love with your captor.
Mm-hmm. And that brings me to my next question. So people are saying, because Cassie was 18, 19 when she met Puff. Puff was 32, 33, somewhere around there. He was older, a lot older than she was. Mm-hmm. And so people are saying that he groomed her, or he was grooming her for all these years. So one, how does grooming work in abusive relationships? So how does grooming work in abusive relationships? And then we'll talk about Cassie in a second. So how does that work?
So, alleged predator will seek out his victim. Sometimes they may study the victim online to learn because we post every damn thing on social media. So it's real easy for them to learn everything that you love and to show up as everything you love. And so they do that. And they win you over, they woo you, they take you on trips, they buy you all the things, they show up as this perfect gentleman or woman, right, to be everything that you needed. And then over time, as they begin to earn and gain your trust, they start kind of chipping away. Or they do little tests. Well, let me try this and see if I can get away with this. Oh, I got away with that. Oh, she must really like me. He must really like me. Okay, well, let me try this. And then, you're falling victim to their advances or to, their grooming techniques. And then, well, you said we're going to come back to Cassie. But
you can bring her in.
Okay. So then in the case of Cassie, she's this young, bright-eyed, girl who's probably hasn't been exposed to all the glitz and the glamour of the music industry. Here's this powerful, one of the top most powerful men in hip-hop in the culture at the time is interested in Me? And he's gonna help my career. Now I done seen what he did for Notorious B.I.G. I seen what he did for Faith Evans, Toto, all of these people, Mary J. If he did that for them, 112, like all of these people, what can he do for me? And he's flaunting me around in these streets. Hey, listen, I'm here for it. And he's
Right.
promising to do all these things for me. So right there, she's captivated. He has power. He has money. He has influence. I want to be a star. He can make that happen. Now, not understanding the dangers of that, especially if you haven't been around that or you don't have anybody in your camp to kind of help you see the dangers of that, yes, you're going to fall victim to it. So he's grooming her, buying her things. I can make you a star. I telling her things that she needed to hear. Okay, so if you love me, why don't we just kind of have, how you feel about a threesome? Oh, okay, you with it? Okay, cool. And then being a young girl, and we've all been there in some capacity. We've all done something for somebody that we loved and looked back at it and said, "What the hell was I thinking?"
Yep.
Or done something to get somebody's attention.
We've all done it. Yep.
Exactly. And so that's just the space that she sat in, and unfortunately, she didn't have anybody in her camp to protect her. She didn't. Because everybody else was looking at the dollar signs. Everybody else was probably already afraid of him. Allegedly, if all of these things have been going on for years, so who was going to protect her? And by the time she maybe was able to kind of realize what was going on, she was in too deep. But then also, she probably had a little bit of that Stockholm syndrome thing going on. But I love him.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens with abusers. He didn't mean it. And every time he knock your ass upside the head, he comes back, he woos you. He does all the things to get you back in. I'm never going to do it again. And then next thing you know, things are great for a while. Next thing you know, you get hit.
He knock you upside your head again. She had said that she reached out to like Nicki Minaj. And Nicki Minaj basically said, and I'm paraphrasing, like, girl, like, stop complaining. Thousands of girls would love to be in your shoes. Basically, like, girl, let it, it's Diddy. And that's, for lack of a better word, that's what she said. And so she said that, Cassie said that after that, she kind of stopped reaching out to people because she felt like everybody was like on Diddy's side and was like, girl, what you complaining about? You're like, you with Diddy. Like, so she really didn't have anybody in her corner that had a little power too that could help her. I'm sure she had like her mother, but like her mother. What can her mother do? She didn't.
Right, this man allegedly blowing up everybody that she talked to, threatening everybody that she talked to. So you're right. What kind of support did she have? And then there's this toxic narrative that exists, unfortunately, in communities of color. Well, grandma and them did it. It happened to them. So, girl, just deal with it. Where you going? What you gonna do?
What you gonna do? Keep your mouth closed next time. So,
Yeah.
stuff like.
Yeah. Your bills are paid. You're eating. You can wear all the nicest things. So just deal with it. It's only a little hit, or it's only a little mind control. And it reinforces that is reinforced by the narratives that we see on some of these comments and posts by people. We don't believe her. That didn't happen. It couldn't be. He doing that, girl. He ain't doing that.
So what are some of the red flags that people can identify, can look for in their own situations, so they can make sure that I don't want to be a part of somebody grooming me or domestic violence. So what are some red flags that you should look for?
I think that people should consider really trying to take time to vet people, getting to know people, and listening to their intuition and using their discernment.
How do you vet people though? So like, that's a good question. So let's talk about that. So how do you vet people, and how long does vetting take? Because I know people who've got married in 30 days. I've known people who got married 90 days, a year. I know people who have dated 10 years, got married, and stayed married 2 years. Right? So it's like, how do you vet people properly? And with that vetting, is there like a time frame it should take? Like, how long should it take?
That's a really good question, because you just don't know. Because, again, people show up in the ways they show up. But I think it goes back to what you said, ignoring those red flags, because people will show you red flags, but we choose sometimes to ignore them because we want what we want. So being realistic with our ideas about what it is we want in a relationship and who it is we want in a relationship, and stop fantasizing about the relationship or idealizing the person, but really looking at what they're showing us and how they're showing up. Look at consistencies or inconsistencies, because sometimes a person's consistency is that they're inconsistent, and we have to start paying attention to those things. How are they? Is what they're saying in alignment with how they're moving, right? The biggest thing I think we do as women, people with vaginas, no, I'm just gonna say people, we ignore our gut intuition. Because we all have it.
It's a woman thing, though.
You think it's a woman thing?
Well, and I say that because I'm a woman, and I know, and most of my friends are women. So I have some male friends too,
Mm-hmm.
but my male friends seem to like they're more logical in their thinking, and they seem to be like they kind of go with what makes sense to
Mm-hmm.
them. We when you know we're wired to be more emotional, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so sometimes I think we ignore our gut and logic and go with how we feel at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like our gut would tell us, do not get in the elevator with someone who looks like an axe murderer, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what our gut would tell us. But then we're like, well, I don't want him to feel bad, or I don't want him to think I'm judging him. So we get in the elevator,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we're on the news because our heads chopped off later, right?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see.
Yeah, I think we as women, because I've done this multiple times. If my gut says something, don't do that, or something, and I do the, and I overthink it, and
Uh-huh.
I'm like, well, I don't want them to think bad about me, or I don't want them to think this, or and then I just kind of overthink it, and I do the opposite of what my gut tells me, and every time I'm like, damn, I should have done what my
Uh-huh.
first mind said. I think that is probably more so a woman thing.
I agree with that. I can agree with that too. That I will agree that women oftentimes we do ignore our intuition. We do not follow the things that are red flags because we want to be hopeful. And I think that that goes to our condition. You know, the whole Cinderella, Snow White. Somebody's going to come to save you. You're supposed to have these things. And as much as we say those narratives don't exist or we don't buy them, I think unconsciously they still reside inside of us, and we remain hopeful, right? And we end up not using our discernment, and when someone shows us who they are, we're like, oh, but maybe, like you said, maybe they're not. Maybe it's really not that bad. And then we try to kind of deal with it. And next thing you know, we're in a situation that's way beyond what we thought it should have been. And it's gone way too long.
Yeah, well,
We didn't ask the right questions, or if we did, we didn't listen to the answers. We try
yes,
because we do that as women. Men will tell us something and we'll be like, oh, but they don't really mean that. That ain't what they meant.
we hear something totally different than what
Yes.
they say.
Yes.
Like I always tell people, believe what a man says. Right? If I'm not ready for a relationship, that is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing that you can do to make him ready. When he gets ready, it's gonna be because he wants to get ready.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna be because you cooked so well, you had sex so well, you took care of his kids so well, you washed his clothes so well.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna be none of that. It's gonna be because he just got ready his own time. So believe what men are telling you. We cannot change their minds. And I think if we as women understood that more, I think we would be better off.
Absolutely. And it answers the question of, well, I did all these things for him for 18 years and he met her and got married to her for 2 months. After 2 months, that's because he was ready.
And he was telling you all this time. I have a friend. I have a friend. I'm sure they won't listen to this. They don't listen to my podcast. I don't think so, but they do. Oh well.
This gonna be
So
what they hear.
I have a friend who is in a relationship and has been in one for 7 years, 8 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their partner wants to be married. They, for whatever reason, do not, right? And their partner gives out hints and do all the things that show I want to be married. And I was like, and I told it's a guy. I told him I was like, hey, she should leave you, right? Because it's clear, crystal clear that you do not want to be married. I don't know if it's not to her or you just want to be married, but you don't want to be married because all the writing is on the wall. Things that he has done, things that he has bought instead of an engagement ring, things that he spent his money on, time on.
Mm-hmm.
It says this is not what I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and she is stayed right there. More power to her, more power to them, whatever. But sometimes as women, we have to make the decision. Like, okay, so if I want something and this
Mm-hmm.
person does not want that, I
Mm-hmm.
have to be willing to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And so that way I can get what I want. Because then what happens is, I've seen this happen before. People will date people for 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
20 years, whatever. Say it didn't go to the level that you wanted to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And then y'all break up, dissolve, and they'll, like I said, marry somebody else. And then you'll say, well, he wasted my time. No, he did not. Actually, you wasted your own time.
Exactly. Correct. Correct.
No, he did not. And now people only waste your time if you let them.
Facts.
Because when you realize that this is I want something that they don't want,
Mm-hmm.
you have free will to walk away. No one is forcing you to stay there. And I think we as women have to be willing to walk away
Mm-hmm.
when things when someone when our desires are not aligned.
You know, walking away, whether it's in any kind of relationship, abusive or not, comes with a level of accountability that you have to deal with yourself at that point. And so a lot of times we're not ready to, first of all, we haven't had enough. I remember when I was in my relationship with my ex-husband, I would cry and slang snot all over the place, like, talking to my mom. And she was like, oh, you haven't had enough yet. She said, when you had enough, you will know when enough is enough. Because I'd be like, well, when is enough enough? She said, you'll know. And I'd be damned if I didn't wake up one morning and I was like, I'm done. And there was nothing nobody could do. God, him herself, couldn't come down here and say, Tamara, I need you to stay. I'd have been like, I'm good. I'll take the L on whatever's going to happen to me. But I wasn't going to stay because I had enough. But then I had to be accountable. And look at, how did I get here?
Mm-hmm.
What beliefs, what narratives, what thoughts, whatever did I do that got me here? Because I did something. I did something. Even if it was choosing to stay or not making a choice to stay. Choosing to ignore the red flags, not vetting properly, not listening to what he was saying and looking at what he was doing and all the conditioning and all the narratives. I did something. I missed something somewhere. So I had to look at that. I had to be accountable. And you know how hard it is to face your stuff. We
It
don't want
is.
to do that sometimes. It's just easier to stay. And then, people get comfortable in the midst of their mess.
Yeah.
Like you were just saying, well, at least he ain't doing this. I can tolerate this. At least she ain't doing that. I can stay with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, like to get back what you said, it takes to be accountable and to
Mm-hmm.
look at your own self. It's easy to be like, nah, this your fault.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here. That's easy to do. But to be like, yeah, I'm here too. Or sometimes the blame is more than their blame. Like
Mm-hmm.
to be accountable and say, yeah, this is on me. That takes a lot, and sometimes a lot of times people are not ready for that. This is related, but kind of not. So I have really good male friends, and they always say that women have a hard time with accountability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, y'all will not take
Mm-hmm.
accountability. Y'all be like, it ain't my fault. And so, and because they say that, and I've had them tell me that on
Mm-hmm.
several occasions, I had to look at myself and like, well, you know what? There is some truth to that.
Mm-hmm.
There's some truth. There's some.
It absolutely is. And even if it's not a lot, there is something. Even if the a part of our accountability is to forgive ourselves for
Yeah.
staying. Forgive ourselves for the shame, for the embarrassment, for the guilt. Forgive ourselves for not loving ourselves enough to know that we didn't deserve any of that.
Right.
Right. So there is something. There is always, even if it's small, we
It's
still
all.
have to have that piece of accountability.
So, what do you want Black women to take away from the Cassie story in terms of healing, agency, and reclaiming their power?
Compassion and grace.
Good.
You know why? Because I used to say that we are all one bad decision away from being on the other side of that table, but it's not even a bad decision. We are all one decision away. Because a decision that we thought might have been good, because I'm sure Cassie didn't enter into that relationship with P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, whatever we call him, thinking that she was going to get her ass kicked. I
Yeah.
know. I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Yeah. I
Right.
don't need.
And so she made one decision and look where she is. She thought perhaps that she was going into this mogul, this guy for love, for having her career being advanced and all these sorts of things. I just don't believe that she went into it. So we have to have some grace and some compassion because we never know when we are on the flip side of that coin and want somebody to have compassion and grace for us. And just to sit this one out. If you don't understand the dynamics of power and control, sit it out and stop having an opinion about something that you truly don't understand because it's so easy to say, well, that wouldn't be me because your logical mind is saying that.
Like what? Like what? What's it saying that the quote, the famous Mike Tyson quote? Everybody has a plan till they punch in the face or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah,
We all think what we it's easy to say, I'll never do that, or if I would do this. You don't know what you'll do
exactly.
until you're in that situation.
And then when you add the component of your life being in danger, or your money being taken away, or your livelihood, and your whole family's dependent on, like it's so many dynamics, and we don't know what we gonna do. And again, when you are in survival mode, your logical brain is not functioning. Your sympathetic nervous system is functioning, not your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and relaxation. where you're able to think clearly. But when you are living day to day in survival mode and you scratching and surviving, you don't know what you're gonna do.
You don't.
So we need to. I would have us consider
Okay.
sitting this one out. But if we got to get in there with some openness, some grace, and some compassion, and some love.
I love that. So, Dr. Tamara,
Yeah.
tell us where we can find you on the interwebs.
Listen, it's so interesting because I am actually taking a 10-day break right now. Every now and then I would do that, but I'm still able to be accessed because I didn't close my pages out. IG, TikTok, and Facebook at Dr. Tamara Rose, DrTamararose. Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And then my website is holisticallyher.com.
Do you have anything coming up for people can? Do you have something people can buy or something people can? Anything coming up you want people to know about?
Yes, actually, I just got a couple days ago. I just published a workbook called Dear Little Girl. It's an unapologetic guide to self-love. It's full of journal prompts, and then also there's a card deck with it. So you pull a card, you read the write-up about the word. There's a word on the card. You read the write-up about the word, and then there's an affirmation, and then there's actually a yoga pose to help with the somatic therapy of it, and the embodiment of it, and the release the trauma that's stored in your body. And so, yeah, it's really cute. It's so cute. I'm so happy about it. But yeah, and then the journal helps to deepen the experience. So then you take the word from the card, you look at the journal. It gives you more of an expansive write-up about the word. And then there's journal prompts to help you kind of reflect on it. And you do this for like a week with each of the cards. So that's the most recent project. Then eventually, probably by the end of the year, I will have another book coming out called Dear Little Tammy, the love letter to the little girl inside the adult woman, talking about how do we heal our inner child. Because this is my 50th year of life. And so I said, it's time. It's time to write that book.
And so they can get the book on your website?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're watching this, go to her website and let's get that Dear
Little Girl, an unapologetic self-love embodiment deck and journal.
Dear Little Girl. Yeah. Go to her website because I don't do yoga, but it sounds like a good book. So I might, I'm thinking about buying it.
You know, and it's not necessarily for people to do yoga. It's just an embodiment pose to help the word deepen and to relieve the trauma out of your body. And as you're saying the affirmation, you're sitting in the pose because the pose is based on the word and as well as the different chakras that it corresponds to. And so it's helping to kind of release trauma and stored energy in your body. So it's not a traditional yoga sequence like people would think it is. It's just poses and body poses.
Go take a look.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Tamara. Thank you for coming on the show and to sharing your insight.
Thank you. I'm glad to be on the show and share this conversation with you out of all people.
Thank you.
You're welcome.